Imagine, it's 1995 and Leonardo DiCaprio is one of Hollywood's biggest teen stars. He's just been nominated for an Oscar for What's Eating Gilbert Grape, and he's about to act in a movie with Meryl Streep and Robert De Niro. He's Hollywood's hottest heartthrob after roles in Total Eclipse and The Basketball Diaries. Romeo and Juliet is coming out soon, and he'll go on to star in James Cameron's Titanic, one of the biggest movies of all time. Leo is literally king of the world. Or is he? Former child actor Leonardo DiCaprio is only 21, still living with his mother. He's on the brink of Hollywood fame and fortune, but he's not quite there yet. In the meantime, he's hitting Hollywood clubs with his friends in a group known as the Posse. Other members of the Posse include Tobey Maguire, Lucas Haas, and Kevin Connolly. One of their friends is another former child actor turned aspiring director named Artie Robb. Artie has an idea. Why don't we make a movie about the Posse? The working title is The Saturday Night Club, a black and white indie with no script that's just a group of friends picking up chicks, hanging out in a diner, and talking about life. They'd shoot it over one night on a shoestring budget and maybe make movie magic. There was only one problem. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire kept this film from ever seeing the light of day. The movie? Don's Plum. Now hold your plum. I know you're thinking that's a stupid title, and we're going to talk about it. The story of Don's Plum is one of fame, greed, and betrayal. Allegedly, the film was buried because it makes Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire look really bad. But one filmmaker maintains that Don's Plum is pure indie gold. Is Don's Plum a quote-unquote gem of indie filmmaking, or is it just a bunch of kids goofing around? Well, gang, for better or for worse, I've seen Don's Plum, and I'm here to tell you what I think. This video essay answers the question, would Don's Plum have ruined the future of Leonardo DiCaprio and or Tobey Maguire? It is unclear whether the media coined the term the Posse or if they claimed it for themselves. It does sound exactly like something a group of middle schoolers would call themselves and think it's really funny. Regardless, these young Hollywood lads were in the tabloids all the time, partying hard, smoking cigarettes, and wearing suits that looked like pajamas. The group basically consisted of Leo and his friends, and many members of the Posse worked on Don's Plum. Don's Plum stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Tobey Maguire, Kevin Connolly, and Scott Bloom. It also stars Jenny Lewis, Meadow Sisto, Heather McComb, and Amber Benson. The filmmakers were self-described members of the Posse, Artie Robb, Dale Wheatley, and David Stuntman. Here's how Don's Plum got made. 1. Artie Robb wants to make a movie with Leo and the Posse. He pitches two ideas, Last Respects, a short film which they hate, and The Saturday Night Club, an unscripted improv film which they love. Neither Leo nor Tobey tell their managers, agents, or lawyers about the project, and there is hardly any paperwork. 2. Dave Stuntman borrows money from Todd Beckman's dad, a McDonald's tycoon, to shoot the film. They have Leo for 2 days, and they plan to make a short film. 3. The initial shoot goes swimmingly. Dale Wheatley reports that as the shoot wrapped, Leo said to him, "Just make me look good." 4. Leo leaves to make Marvin's Room and the filmmakers start cutting the film. 5. Upon editing, they get even more ideas. The entire cast without Leo meet for reshoots. 6. The filmmakers finish the film, which now runs about 70 minutes. 7. Variety publishes a press release. It says, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire, who is wrapping production on Ang Lee's The Ice Storm at Fox Searchlight, have quietly shot an indie feature film called Don's Plum with first-time director Artie Robb. The project, which also stars Kevin Connolly and Scott Bloom, was shot in black and white and in real time. The story is about a night in the life of 4 guys who are hanging out at a coffee house. The project was executive produced by Jerry Beckman and Jerry Metters, former marketing VP at Paramount. 8. Don's Plum screens at MGM Studios for agents, producers, and, at the last minute, Leo DiCaprio. 9. Allegedly, Leo calls the film pretty good. Tobey Maguire, however, hates Don's Plum. According to a 2014 oral history by Dale Wheatley, Tobey screamed, "I want Don's Plum to burn," while boiling a pot of macaroni. 10. Talent management decides it would not look good for Leo or Tobey if the film got released. Stuntman and Wheatley try suing Leonardo DiCaprio to release the film. According to Wheatley, lawyers aren't very anxious to take the case because at the time, Leonardo DiCaprio isn't worth very much money. Remember, he still lives with his mom. 11. In 1997, Titanic comes out. Leonardo DiCaprio becomes stinking rich. In 1998, stuntman sues Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire. Leo argues that he thought he was making a short film, not a feature film. And given how seriously Leo takes his acting, I believe him.
I never had any intention of doing a feature film. The agreement had always been that this was a short film. I would never go in for one night and improvise with my friends and make a feature film. There's no way I would ever do that.
Before we go further, I want to clarify that a short film means under 40 minutes, but most shorts are about 10 minutes, and a feature film is any film over 80 minutes. The case settles out of court. The film is banned in the United States and Canada, and the filmmakers must cut the film's most vulgar scenes before international release. In 2001, the film premieres at the Berlin Film Festival. It receives international distribution everywhere but the United States and Canada. In 2014, after the advent of streaming makes movies more available, Dale Wheatley writes an open letter to Leonardo DiCaprio called Free Don's Plum. In it, he writes, "You, Leo, might be the only actor in the history of American cinema who has publicly and unapologetically shamed his director and then went on to destroy his work. This letter is about so much more than just a movie. It's about bullying, censorship, and abuse of power. You and Tobey Maguire spat in the face of independent film and the community that helped you get where you are today. You are not bigger than art, Leo." I've abridged the quote. By 2016, the film is still unreleased. Eventually, the dad who initially loaned Stuntman the money to make the film asks for the money back. Stuntman cannot pay him, so now the inventor of the McDonald's Happy Meal owns Don's Plum. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire have not spoken publicly about Don's Plum since the deposition. The lawsuit cost millions of dollars, and the ghost of Don's Plum still haunts some of its filmmakers to this day. So is this little black and white indie film worth the life-shattering drama it caused? For years, the biggest thing Don's Plum had going for it was that no one had seen it. Well, friends, it's 2024, and you can see Don's Plum now. And I did. I hate this movie so much. I've watched this movie 3 times now, and while I can't say the film is completely without merit, I just hate it. First of all, Don's Plum is a terrible title for anything. It's the name of the diner, a real eatery in Los Angeles actually called Don's Plum. It's closed now, probably because it was called Don's Plum, but whenever I try to explain this movie to people, they think Don's Plum is a metaphor, or maybe one of the characters is named Don, which he is. He's the owner of the restaurant, but this movie is not about his plum. Or maybe it's like a reference to that William Carlos Williams poem, but nope, it's called Don's Plum because they shot it at a diner called Don's Plum. End of story. This name is so stupid that the characters hardly ever refer to the diner as Don's Plum. They call it either Don's or the Plum. But anyways, here's what happens in the movie Don's Plum. The first act is by far the most interesting because it's the only part of the movie with any sort of dramatic issue. These 4 boys have to find dates to bring to their weekly Saturday night hang. But they're completely disgusting and no girl in their right mind would ever want to hang out with them. Tobey Maguire gets rejected twice at a coffee shop before bagging an off-duty waitress. Kevin Connolly picks up a hitchhiker. Scott Bloom convinces his crush Jenny Lewis to tag along. And Leo calls like 4 girls before showing up alone. Act 2 is a shit show. It's basically a booth full of rambunctious, chain-smoking teenagers tormenting everyone in the restaurant, from the staff to the customers to each other. Periodically, the characters will get up and do little monologues in front of the bathroom mirror. The fact that Don's Plum is cohesive and watchable at all is kind of a miracle. The filmmakers are far less experienced than the actors, but the actors are pretty experienced, and they basically made the movie Artie Robb pitched, an improv film of friends hanging out at a diner. The actors flesh out their characters in real time right there on the film in ways that both illuminate and betray their true selves. It reminded me of mumblecore films from the early aughts, and it has a degree of radical honesty, which both adds to the movie magic and illuminates what actual dickheads these kids are. Despite some slivers of soul, Don's Plum is shockingly misogynistic. The way women are treated by the men, but also by themselves, is really hard to watch, and in my opinion, the main reason Leo's agent blew a gasket, because Leo's #1 fans at this time were teenage girls. Here are some stellar improvised lines that Leo says in Don's Plum. Leonardo DiCaprio plays a character named Derek. The first thing Derek does is make rude noises behind a larger female customer. This upsets the hitchhiker girl, who calls him out. Leo uses this opportunity to verbally abuse her, call her a whore, and graphically describe the ways he wants to hurt her. She gets up, throws a sandal, and leaves. Leo throws a glass of water after her, and then she beats the shit out of Kevin Connolly's Jeep with a baseball bat that he just had sitting around in the back. The other kids just kind of sit back and watch Leo verbally abuse this girl, and after she leaves, they're like, "Gee, Leo, you're such a jerk," and he's like, "Whoopsie, sorry I broke a glass in your diner, Dawn." It does not get prettier from there. They harass the waitress, mock the other customers, chain smoke, and drop F-bombs until it's finally time for the movie to be over. The only thing resembling an arc is whatever tomfoolery is going on between Leonardo DiCaprio's hand and Jenny Lewis's boobs. To finish off the second act, Leo has a hissy fit because no one is paying attention to him, and he drops the bomb that his character's dad committed suicide. He gets up and leaves, and the playful mood is over. In Act 3, Jenny Lewis goes to try and talk to Leo about his dead dad, but then he tries forcing her to hook up with him, and then she yells at him, and he calls her a whore, and she calls him a baby and smacks him on the back of the head like the little boy he is. Jenny Lewis goes to the bathroom and gives herself a pep talk about how even though her mom is a prostitute and she's been abused in the past, she's determined to have higher standards for herself, and it's probably the best monologue in the film, but you can't hear it because the sound is ass. When Leo comes out, everyone is having a fist fight on the porch. I don't know why. And Leo goes and breaks it up. They start a fire, deface some public property, and then ride off into the sunrise because they've been torturing people in this diner until 6 a.m. in the morning. The end. You might be asking yourself, why are they in a diner in the first place? Why don't they go to a bar? Well, it's because they're underage. They can't enter the bar. This is a movie about children. Everything about Don's Plum begins and ends with Leonardo DiCaprio. The filmmakers made it because they wanted Leo in one of their movies. During the production and initial sale, they banked on Leo's star power to sell the movie and launch their careers. And for an amazing film, maybe he would have. But despite the starry-eyed spirit of Don's Plum, it is not an amazing film. I was a huge fan of Leonardo DiCaprio's after Titanic. Everyone was. This was the 90s, and we fans didn't have access to our favorite stars through social media or the internet. We had their work, and we had magazines. And if you liked an actor, you combed through their entire filmography until you saw every single film. You had to rewind the cool parts because there were no GIFs. Now, even teenage girls know that acting isn't real. But if I had seen this film as a preteen fan of Leo's, it would have ruined Titanic for me. It would have ruined Romeo and Juliet. It would have ruined my entire fandom with Leonardo DiCaprio. Because we weren't really in love with Leonardo DiCaprio, we were in love with Jack Dawson, a fictional character from the brain of James Cameron. Derek from Don's Plum could not be further from Romeo Montague or Jack Dawson. And from reports, it sounds like Leo is a lot more like Derek than he is those romantic heroes. In a 2023 Collider piece by Reed Goldberg, it's been claimed that DiCaprio wanted one of his co-stars, Amber Benson, the hitchhiker girl, to be fired as he didn't consider her a strong enough actor. The solution was to essentially write her out of the story by having DiCaprio's crass character verbally harass her to the point that she'd no longer want to participate. According to Todd Beckman, so her getting upset at the table is real, and her throwing the Birkenstock at their head is real. She was actually upset. She was actually storming out. Don's Plum is a movie about teens for teens, and when you're a young teen, the coolest thing on earth is being an old teen. In the late 90s, Leo's fangirls would have dredged up VHS tapes to watch Don's Plum. And what would they see? Their imaginary boyfriend calling women whores and trying to rape them? Not a good look. Better to have the version of the guy who saves his girlfriend from drowning by literally freezing to death. Would Don's Plum have ruined Leo's career if it came out in 1996? I say yes. I predict with my perfect Magic 8 fortune-telling time machine that Don's Plum would have tanked not only Leo's heartthrob status, but also probably Titanic and Romeo and Juliet, two very expensive films that could not afford to flop. Allegedly, during production, Leo even told Dale, "Guys, I don't want this to be a feature film. I can't afford a bad feature film to go out right now." But in 1998 and 1999, when the lawsuit went down, Titanic and Romeo and Juliet had already been released. Would Don's Plum have ruined Leo's career then? When Don's Plum premiered at the 2001 Berlin Film Festival, Variety magazine published this review. Could they be any more immature? Long unfinished 1995 Amera indie Dawn's Plum finally reveals itself to be an unpleasant ensemble featuring Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire as bros who gather at the titular LA chill spot with a new hottie in tow for a long night of coffee, french fries, intra-posse abuse, and X-rated banter. And this was about the movie with the required cuts. Here's the rest of the review. In light of DiCaprio's subsequent work, it seems genuinely odd that he, along with Maguire, would object so strenuously to the film's existence, ostensibly on the grounds that they weren't aware a feature was being made at the time from sessions they thought were improvs. Nothing less than a younger, pre-fame sketch of his character in Woody Allen's Celebrity, this is the Leo the way a lot of the press cover him and the public imagine him, and it's no more or less flattering than, say, his recent turn in The Beach. For his part, Maguire gives the most oddball readings of the bunch with a wide-eyed visage and spooky rhythms that hint at an emotional depth. The pick around him never begins to plumb. Guys, I gotta be honest, reading that review was rough. But he has a good point. It's true. In Woody Allen's 1998 film Celebrity, Leo plays another violent, misogynistic pretty boy who gets off the hook because of his charisma. It's not a far cry from Derek from Dawn's Plum. However, in 2002, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man came out. This was the movie that paved the way for all other big-budget superheroes in this century. At the time, it was considered a big risk. And who did it star? None other than Dawn's Plum shy guy, Tobey Maguire. Tobey Maguire was cast as Peter Parker in 2000, right around the time the lawsuit was wrapping up. At the time, the coast might have been clear for Leonardo DiCaprio, but it was not for Tobey Maguire, the one who wanted to burn Dawn's Plum in the first place. Now, I don't actually think Tobey does anything glaringly offensive in the movie. If anything, he's the sweetheart of the group, the poor guy with the bad shirt, an offbeat weirdo who can't quite keep up with the other actors' improv skills. In 2019, Dawn's Plum line producer John Schindler said, "What's out there is pretty embarrassing." And by that point, Dawn's Plum probably wouldn't have been catastrophic, but it was still pretty embarrassing. The movie did come out internationally in 2001, but it failed to cause a sensation, even in Japan, one of Leo's strongest markets. But it does have some fans, especially among people who love indie films. For me, the vibe of frustrated young adult Gen X angst is better captured by movies like Clerks, Reality Bites, or even Empire Records. So why not free Dawn's Plum in 2014 when Dale Wheatley started Free Dawn's Plum? In the 2019 documentary, Todd Becker, whose dad fronted the money for the film, says, "It amazes me that people have lived their whole life in which Dawn's Plum is a major catalyst for how their life turned out." To be honest, it amazes me too. Like I said, everything about Dawn's Plum begins and ends with Leonardo DiCaprio. The filmmakers made it with and for Leo. They tried to sell it by selling Leo, and Wheatley blames Leo for the film's burial. Believe it or not, there are untold piles of unreleased film in Hollywood. Much of what gets shot never sees distribution. It's totally common for a big Hollywood star or their team to veto a cut of a film that makes them look bad, or even makes them look not the way they want to be represented in the market at that time. That's why so many actors become executive producers, which Leo eventually did. Wheatley still believes Dawn's Plum could be his big break. In his open letter to Leo, Wheatley writes, "I truly believe that Dawn's Plum is a gem among low-budget independent films, and it wouldn't have happened without you." But why not? Why would it not have happened without Leonardo DiCaprio? Leo is the most disgusting character in the film. If their mission was so important, why not reshoot Dawn's Plum without Leo or with entirely different actors? If the filmmakers really cared so much about sharing their teen spirit, why not just make another movie? Or why not recut the existing film as a short? In the mid-90s, short films didn't make it to home video, but they did help launch filmmakers' careers. And a short film with 2 to 3 big stars would have gotten these boys some attention, at least. I think the plaintiffs in the court case wanted to go big or go home. I think they wanted the money. The tale of Dawn's Plum is a tale of fame, greed, and betrayal. But Dawn's Plum is not a hill worth dying on. I don't think it's a huge injustice to the film industry that Dawn's Plum stayed buried for 20 years and then got leaked on the internet. In a way, I think it was always meant to be this way. Thank you so much for watching my quaint little opinion essay. Please do like and subscribe if you enjoyed any part of it. My goal this year is to release a video essay every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. Thank you so much for stopping by. Cheers!